Okay, let's continue on. Last time, Labcoat was bullying Takaru, basically. Saruka interrupted with a yell. It's the first time in ages I'd heard her yell. I looked up to see her standing between me and Labcoat with her hands on her hips.
一体何なんですか？特に超能力ってそんなアニメや漫画みたいな話真面目にしてどうかしてますよ。
何？
尾上。
I mean, that's, maybe not the sticking point of what she's doing, the wrong things she's doing, but okay, sure.
タクは人が殺された場所とかでいっぱいあのシールを見てきてるんです。気持ちが悪くなるの当たり前じゃないですか。私だってラブホの時のことを思い出して吐いちゃいそうになることありますけど。そんなくったらないことが証拠だって言うなら、私にだって超能力があるってことになりますよね。
いや、お前は違う。
なんでですか？
Saruka pushed harder. When she thought I was in trouble, sometimes she would turn into a totally different person. She tried to protect me in a different way than Kurusu. Made me happy. It made me feel better, but...
尾上、ありがとう。けど、ちょっとだけ抑えてくれ。
でも。
いいから、本当にサンキューな。
There was no way I had any kind of psychic power. But I'd already suspected the powers like that were involved in the case somehow. So I wanted to hear what Labcoat had to say. Labcoat looked at me for a moment questioningly and then sighed. Then she took out her phone and made a call. The person on the phone didn't seem very happy about it, but they eventually gave their approval. She nodded and hung up the phone, then spoke.
また出かけるぞ。まあ、今度は命の危険はないだろう。安心するがいい。
ふむ、こんな時間によう来たの。まだ閉店時間までは間があるゆえ、ゆるりと過ごしてゆくがよい。
Labcoat took me to Cafe Lax? Interesting choice. We were taken to a big table by the window. Think of it, I'd just been here a while ago. Last time was to listen in the conversation between Arimura and Shinjo. While I was thinking about that, the person Labcoat had called walked into the cafe. They seemed upset.
Huh?
When I looked up and saw who was there, I gasped.
こんな時間によう来たの。ゆるりと過ごしてゆくがよい。用が済んだらすぐに帰りますから。
Yay. Does she want to use her as a lie detector?
遅かったな。
私にだって準備くらいあるんです。
Arimura. It was the girl I was just thinking about.
あれ？ひなちゃんだ。どうも。これってどういうことっすかね、先輩方。
知らねえって。俺に聞かないでくれ。
True. What was she doing inviting Arimura here for?
っていうか、久野里さん、便利に使って巻き込むのはやめてほしいって言いましたよね。
互いに情報の提供をする。そういう約束だろ。
そっちばっかり私を利用してるくせに。
いいから座れ。
Yeah. See how long she stays willing to be a tool. Arimura sighed, glanced at us, and sat down with a frown on her face. There was an awkward moment after we ordered our drinks when no one spoke.
それで、何なんです？
Once our drinks arrived, Arimura, of course, was the first one to speak up.
口で説明するよりも見せた方が早いと思ってな。
まさか、話したんですか？
利用価値がありそうだと判断した。
ほんと、勘弁してほしいんですけど。
From the way they were talking, Arimura must have known about these powers as well. And...
つべこべ言わずに見せてやれ。
show them? Wait, she couldn't mean...
嫌ですよ、めんどくさい。
宮代拓が能力者かどうか確証を得たい。
いや、だからですね。僕はそんな。
間違いなく能力者ですよ。
Arimura spoke as if it was the most natural, normal thing in the world.
有村。
おい、本当か宮代。
信じられないよ。
だから僕は知らないって。
なるほどね。知らないというのは本当みたいです。無自覚なんですね。
無自覚も何も、有村はなんでそんなこと言い切れるんだよ。
あれ？思い当たる節ありませんか？
そんなのあるわけ。
If I had that power, I would have used it for something.
でも、自分がこうなってほしいと思ったところで、いつも特別なことが起きたりしたでしょ？例えば、例のラブホテルに先輩が潜入した時。あの時、部屋には確かに鍵がかかっていたんですよ。なのに、先輩はどうやって入ってきたんです？
嘘だ。鍵は開いてた。
Interesting. I had assumed this was connected to the whole door knocking thing, and there being no one on the other side.
いいえ、閉まってました。けどいきなり開いたんです。だよね、セリ。
Like... What's the best way of phrasing it? Like, I had assumed that someone had the ability to remotely create small events, basically. Like the knocking on the door, or unlocking a door without actually being there, right? Serica hesitated for a moment and looked at me.
確かに、ガチャって。
Why was it locked in the first place, by the way? Like, it's not like they were still in there in the Love Hotel room as a group. A policeman had already come in, right?
尾上？
ほら、それが宮代先輩の能力です。
My power is for the plot to bend to suit my needs, basically. Is that what it is? My power? No way.
おそらく望んだように物体を動かす能力、いわゆるテレキネシス、あるいはサイコキネシスか、それを持っている。病院の地下施設にあんな簡単に侵入できたのもそのおかげだ。
本当かよ。
Ito was looking at me in shock.
いや、待ってくれ。違う。
Sure, when I got into the psych ward and the underground lab, a lot of coincidences had happened all at once. But he didn't cause something to move to get into the hospital ward, right? Sure, the door opened, but it was locked. It's not like... I feel as though this is a red herring for what power he has, basically. Doors that would normally be locked weren't. Like, that's like... It's a physical lock, of course, for even a door like that, but I feel like it would be much more electronically... Yeah, I guess... what's the best way of phrasing it? I don't know. When I got down to the underground facility from the autopsy room, something had gotten stuck, and I'd been able to open the secret door. But...
そんな特殊な能力なんて本当にあるわけ。
でもさ、宮代言ってたよな。今回の事件の鍵かもしれないって。
Well, they could be the key to this case and also not be real. There's a lot of, insane people out there who believe in things that, clearly aren't real. Like, death cults and stuff like that. All it takes is for people to act on them, yeah?
それはそうだけど。
Sure, I had been saying that just a little while ago, but only after being told that I was a psychic did I understand. I hadn't actually really believed it. When I said it out aloud, I'd acted like it was some brilliant theory, but in my mind, I'd still been treating it as fiction. I mean, right? How could I have something so crazy?
先輩、今から言う質問に全ていいえで答えてください。
は？なんだよいきなり。
How would I ever be able to answer if I'd be able to answer every question no? I don't know what the questions are. Is your favorite color blue? No.
いいから答えてください。いいですね。
あ、はい。
Oh, she's giving me an order. Got it. I nodded since I didn't seem like I was going to be given a chance to disagree.
自分のクラスの人間はバカばっかりだと思っている。
いいえ。
Not everyone. He has gained more respect for them lately.
でも、本当はその輪の中に入りたいと思っている。
いいえ。
一人でカラオケに行ったことがある。
So first one was truth, second one was a lie. This is also true.
いいえ。
So that's a lie. So truth, lie, lie.
一人でカラオケに行ったけれど、一曲も歌ってはいない。
いいえ。
That one was... I don't know. I know he probably sang a song. Let's be real. Truth, lie, 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 lie. Is that implying that the first one's supposed to be a lie? Or the very... I guess we've seen some shifts in him, but maybe he is still more sincerely believes his previous stance.
クルス先輩と一緒に暮らしていた時、クルス先輩のお風呂を覗いちゃったことがある。
いいえ。
Oh, that feels like that was the truth.
なるほど。わかりました。
His art does look a bit weird. Like he has a bit of an upturned chin and stuff like that. Arimura nodded and smiled.
わかったって何が？
まず最初の質問。宮代先輩はみんなバカばっかりだと思ってますね。
そんなことは。
それから次。そうは言っても本当は寂しくてみんなの輪の中に入りたいとそう思ってます。
違う。僕は何の生産性もない会話になんて。
カラオケに一人で行きましたね。
I suppose, yeah, I guess that's the idea.
それは新聞部の取材で言っただけだ。でも歌っては。
それは嘘です。
え？
本当は歌いました。
歌ってない。
一曲だけですか？
だから歌ってないってば。
なるほど。一曲だけ歌ったんですね。
おい、宮代、本当か？お前あれだけ歌ってないって否定してたよな。
Arimura, how do you know this stuff? It had seemed like a waste, so I did sing one song.
最後にお風呂でクルス先輩を。
もういい、やめろ。
タク。
Oh no, that was a lie. He seemed so, determined in his, facial expression, like he was getting more confident. I guess it could have just been him saying no repeatedly, but... Stop it. Damn it. Sarah pushed down on her Garo froggy strap, made a noise like You lose buzzer on a game show. Is this a TV variety show or something?
違うんだ。あれはユードがいたずらして、今なら誰も入ってないって言うからドアを開けたら、それに慌てて目をつぶったから何も見てない。本当だぞ。
Don't say it's a lie. Don't say it's a lie. Do you have any idea what the hell I went? Do you have any idea what hell I went through after that? Just remembering it terrified me. Wait, no.
それが一体なんだって言うんだ。
わかりませんか？今のが私の能力です。
Yeah, that's been sort of obvious for a long ass time.
他人の口にした言葉が嘘か真実かわかる。それが私の能力なんです。
She could tell if someone was lying.
Oh.
And then I finally realized the way Arimura had acted, the things she said.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？
彼女の言ってること本当かな？
いや、ホットリーディングやコールドリーディングって可能性もあるし。
Maybe.
ホットリーディング？
Okay, I mean, if you really want to test it, there's gotta be something that, what would be an actually really good test for this? Everyone thinks of something in time.
つまり事前に調査して、って後で自分で調べろ。
ああ、もういい。面倒だ。
Lapcat looked annoyed and bored as she watched our conversation.
あれを見せてやれ。それが一番早い。
あれですか？こんなところで？
多分、宮代以外には見えないはずだ。
Huh?
そうかもしれません。けど。
Alright, Mira looked towards the ground. Show me something. Wait, what was she gonna show me? She nodded reluctantly and suddenly stood up in front of me.
宮代先輩。
何？
よく見ててください。
And then she lifted up her skirt. No, that's not what happened. That's just what I wanted to happen. That's what I wanted to happen. So my psychokinesis lifted up her skirt for me. What are you gonna show me? I almost asked, but then I stopped. Suddenly, she stretched her right hand out to the side. She inhaled slowly and then seemed to draw something out of the air. As I sat there astonished, she pulled something impossible out of empty air. It was warped yet elegant. I don't know what I feel about this. This is a sword thing, isn't it? I don't know what I feel about this. It really sort of feels out of place. Ugly yet fascinating. It was inorganic and organic at the same time. It was as if it contained every shape in the world. It was a...
Ken?
Wasn't that the same thing Labgoat had in her apartment? The shape was different, but it had the same terrible feeling to it. But Arimura had just pulled it out of thin air.
どうやったんだ?
I don't know how I feel about this. Generally, I'm very open to the idea of just rolling with whatever story gives me. But this element just feels so almost out of place relative to the other elements in the story. It really does. It feels like, I guess just tonally it feels different. Like it doesn't fit with everything. Maybe that'll change over time, but... But I honestly, it's one of those things where my first instinct is this a story built around the idea of having an excuse to have these swords? I'm not totally against the idea, but if it is, it still feels out of place. At least first impression, it feels out of place. I'm not against the idea of it warming up to me and me getting used to it, but... And who knows, maybe that's actually the fucking intention of the story. They want it to be this big mysterious thing that's completely out of nowhere. But honestly, if I were them, I wouldn't have called it a D-sword, because that feels more like a cheap anime name rather than like the sort of like scientific-esque elements that have been applied to like the rest of the story, where it feels more like pseudoscience for the rest of it, and that feels more like Anamu. And I like anime. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like against anime. It's just a very different feeling. Arimura looked unhappy as she saw my shock.
やっぱり見えるんですね。え？何の話？タク。
剣ってなんだよ。
見えないのか。二人とも。
Interesting. Neither of them? Sarika and Ito both shook their heads.
そんなバカな。
It was huge. How could they not see it? I quickly looked around the room. But no one else, not the customers nor the employees, was looking at the thing in Arimura's hands. No, they couldn't see it.
これで決まりだな。
どういうことなんですか、これ。
今、有村ひなえが手にしているもの。それが能力者の証だ。ディソードと呼ばれている。
Again, it feels so weird. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm not against the idea, but so far how they're handling it feels like it doesn't fit. That's the best way I can phrase it.
ディソード？
I'd heard her use that word before. I didn't realize that she was talking about this, though.
その状態のディソードは能力者にしか目視できない。つまりそれが見えるお前は間違いなく能力者ということだよ。
Lapcoat's cold voice dropped even lower than usual.
でも僕、そんな能力なんて本当に使った覚えもないし。
でも事実だ。
I couldn't believe it. So much was going through my head that I couldn't think. I looked over at the D-sword again. Arimura fiddled with it and snorted.
まあ、同じギガロマニアックス同士、もう少し仲良くしときますかね、先輩。
Gigalomaniacs also sounds like a weird... It's so weird. That's the thing. It's like you have all these concepts and stuff that's sort of like pseudoscience-y, and it's really interesting and all that sort of stuff, and then you have these other terms and concepts that are clearly connected and whatnot, but they feel like they take like a hard turn from it. I don't know. I guess we'll see. if they come together and the disconnect is either purposeful, and that's part of what the story wants me to feel at the moment, and if it comes together later and it feels natural at a point. We'll see. We'll see.
ギガロマニアックス？
I remember Labgoat using that word before too. I wonder if they sound better in Japanese. Like if the idea of Gigaromaniac just sounds more like it would fit in with pseudoscience than it would in English. Or D-sword even. I sort of don't believe the D-sword element. But I could imagine, given a lot of scientific advancement in the modern era has come out of the West and has Western-sounding names, the idea of having Western-sounding names could actually be something that's supposed to sound more scientific in Japanese. And if that's the case, I'm just noting, if that is the case, I actually think it probably would have been better for them to actively just change the names, actually localize it to something that would be more fitting to the spirit of what it was in Japanese, sort of thing. People complain about localization changes, but that's exactly the sort of thing that if this is not their intent for it to feel very different, and I don't know because I'm not playing the original, If that's not the case, then that's when you change stuff in order to make it fit the experience the original created. The naming convention is a lot less important than the actual experience being, closer, right? We'll see how I feel later. Yes.
我々は能力者のことをそう呼んでいる。ギガロマニアックスと。
呼び方なんかどうでもいいです。それよりやっぱり信じられません。僕のサイコキネシスとかそんなの非科学的です。
ああ、サイコキネシスというのはお前がイメージしやすいようにそう言っただけだ。実際はもっと科学的な概念が存在する。
Please, I would much prefer to be exposed to that. Please.
科学的？
I looked at Arimura's sword skeptically. Scientific. That.
無理ですよ、久野里さん。説明とかしてもさっぱりわかんないと思います。ちなみに、私は一つも理解できてません。
お前と一緒にすんな。僕はこれでも。
A right-sider?
はいはい。
Damn it. She was pissing me off.
理解などしなくていい。ただ最低限のことだけは覚えておけ。ギガロマニアックスの能力をカートゥーンに登場するような超能力と同じように使うな。そんな安易なものでも愉快なものでもない。
I mean, I assume they mean May? TV animations that are shown in a cartoon is supposed to leave simple good versus evil stories. Okay. In Japan, you can watch cartoons on a dedicated paid cable TV channel. Okay. What a weird thing to highlight.
何が違うって言うんです？
I wonder if they use the the actual cartoon word, and that's why it explains the Western element of it so much.
ギガロマニアックスの能力とは簡単に言えば自らの妄想を現実に変換する力だ。
So that's an across-the-board type concept? Interesting.
妄想現実に変換？
What was she talking about? That wasn't scientific at all. Well, I don't think you understand what scientific is. I mean, of course it's not scientific, it's just explaining something in layman's terms. Scientific, if you wanted to make it scientific, you'd be giving data, right?
ディラックの海という言葉をまあ知らないだろうな。
ディラックの海。
Sarah could start to fidget on the sofa. She probably couldn't follow what we were talking about at all, but she could tell that I was nervous.
確か量子力学の中の概念ですよね。
I am not familiar with that specific term. I'm actually sort of, well, maybe they'll put in the tips later.
ほう、驚いたな。一階の高校生が知っているとは。
I'm not familiar with the term. I might know of the concept, though. I've dabbled in quantum mechanics stuff enough that I might have heard precisely what she's referring to, but don't know the name personally. For some reason, a lot of people on the Japanese internet love relativity theory and quantum mechanics. Well... Schrodinger's cat, for example, had been discussed so many times by now that it's considered an embarrassment to even bring up. It's often a very misunderstood concept, too. So I knew a little.
真空を負のエネルギーに満たされた空間だと定義するんですよね。で、そこをディラックの海って呼ぶ。
Interesting.
ああ、そうだ。ディラックの海はマイナスエネルギーに満ちた世界ということになる。
Define negative energy. Just like the quantity of energy is literally in the negatives? Or... Labcoat looked at Arimura's hands as she held the D-sword. And then Arimura smiled, a little wickedly.
で、そのなんとかの海っ とこの剣を使って妄想を現実にできるんですよ。リアルブートっていうらしいですけどね。
A real boot. Is that a quantum physics thing?
リアルブート。
ディソードは剣の形をしているが、実はただの武器じゃない。ディラックの海に干渉し、現実との間のパイプとなる端末だ。ギガロマニアックスがその端末を用いると、本来現実空間の中に存在できないはずの負のエネルギーを引き出すことができる。するとホールセオリーによるペアクリエーションで粒子と反粒子が生まれる。それがエラーとなって他人の脳のデッドスポットに影響を与えるんだ。
Aren't particles and antiparticles constantly made? I thought that was the entire concept behind them. They're constantly made everywhere, and then am I remembering that incorrectly? Hey Siri, antiparticles. Every type of particle is associated with the antiparticles at the same mass but the opposite physical charge. Because the thing about particle theory is that it's not really physical particles. What essentially particle theory is the idea that the world is made up of fields, like an electromagnetic field, time field, mass fields, or stuff like that. And what a particle is a disturbance in that field. It's not a physical thing. It's a disturbance in the field. Our mass stops other mass from interacting with it because it creates forces when the field disturbances interact with each other. And that's why forces are created. That's the idea behind particle physics. In a very simplified, probably partially wrong form. I'm not a physics major, I'll say that. I thought the idea... particle, antiparticles can hide each other. Oh my goodness, I need to... I'm not going to sit here and just read about this stuff again. I don't think about it too often, so it's not something that I remember perfectly, so... Whole theory, though. Let's think about whole theory. Hey Siri, whole theory. It's a different whole theory then.
5 minutes later.
Ay, caramba. Okay, back from reading that stuff for too long for me to process paragraphs about math properly. It's the mathematical parts that really start to test the limits of your attention span, let's say that.
脳のデッドスポット?
Yeah, I just reread that before I came back and was like, yeah, that seems like a weird jump in logic from antimatter to this. Arimar seems to only half understand the stuff herself, but I'm completely lost at this point. So, it's basically a theory that originally established the idea of antimatter, is what it ultimately boils down to.
デッドスポットというのは人間の脳における視覚野の視覚だよ。
Why would that matter?
そこに影響を与えられるということは、つまり自分の妄想をそこへ送り込み、妄想通りのものを相手に見せられるということだ。
So you're saying the process of antimatter... Because the idea is that particles and antiparticles are created and they collapse onto each other. Unless you're on a black hole in which one side gets pulled in and the other side doesn't. Or is it black hole? Yeah, I think it's black holes then. It works like that.
しかも相手にとってそれは完全な現実として認識される。
Obviously this is not actually anything related to reality outside of using some quantum concepts, but it's hard to completely just be like, it's entirely sort of a big logical jump, pseudoscience sort of stuff without properly understanding, which might be part of the point.
でも、そんなのただの幻覚じゃないですか。催眠術と同じですよ。
I mean, visual... I mean, that's the point. Stimulating the visual senses of another's brain would not necessarily do shit, basically, to the actual world.
催眠術？そうか。じゃあその妄想を自分の周りの人間全員がリアルな現実だと共通認識してしまったらどうだ？
It would affect their ability to... It would affect their recollection of what happened, but it wouldn't suddenly make the visual stimulation real, yeah? It wouldn't say, for example, unlock a lock.
共通認識？
そうだ。さらにそれが渋谷中の人間の共通認識になったら、そしてその共通認識が東京中の人間、日本中の人間、果ては世界中の人間にまで広がっていったとしたら、一体誰がそれを現実じゃないと否定できるんだ？
それは。
そうしたら妄想はすでに作り事でも幻覚でもなくなる。紛れもない現実と化すんだよ。だからそれはリアルブートと呼ばれている。
No, it wouldn't become reality. It would become what people think happened. It would make it very fucking difficult to trust observations anymore, I'll say that. But, like, you couldn't kill someone based off that, right? You, again, you couldn't flip a lock based on what you're saying. Reality doesn't change just because everyone views it the same way. The physical interactions of the world don't change because everyone thinks they observe that happening that way, right?
そんなバカな。だってそんなことで現実がねじ曲げられるなんて。
Unless they want to go with the concept of reality only being observations. Unless they want to go with that, which I think would be interesting, but I rub my head with my fingers trying to make some sense out of all of this.
仮にいいですか？仮にですよ。僕がそのギガロマニアックスだったとして。だけど閉まってるドアの鍵を開けるとか、そんな風に妄想が物理現象にまで影響を与えるなんて不可能ですよ。
私たち含め研究者たちも当初はそう考え楽観視していた。だがそんな甘いものじゃなかったんだ。
え？
物理現象すらねじ曲げるんだよ。ギガロマニアックスの妄想とそれによって共通認識化された現実は。
Why? Why?
だからこそそれはこの上なく危険なんだ。
But why? Also, why Is it a scale thing, what you're saying? I looked at Arimura's sword, then back at Labcoat. Arimura was still smiling. She held the sword in front of me. I couldn't tell if the light it gave off was holy or evil, but for a moment it was so beautiful that I shivered. But how? How does it change the physical world? That's the important part. That is the important part of the theory. Are you still researching that? If you're still researching it, just tell me. That's all I need to know. If it's an unknown, I'm okay with that. I just need to know. Whatever. The town was... I guess I should just go to the end of episode. The town was filled with the noise that threatened to swallow her whole. It went longer than I expected. That was just the way she wanted it. Oh, hey, you person that we've seen so many times yet. Hasn't come up in the story yet. Shibuya was a town that accepted anybody and rejected everyone. was the only place that would let her be a part of it now. She moved her legs forwards valiantly, amidst the hustle and bustle. Forward, forward. Each step she took, her face twisted with horrible pain. Or at least that's how it seemed to her. She didn't know if the pain was actually appearing on her face. Her face was covered with scars and shielded by long hair that hid her hate. But as she dragged her legs down the street, no one in Shibuya stopped to look at her. She was grateful for that, but at the same time she hated it. A flame burned within her womb. Well, that's promising. It was a flame of hatred. Why the womb, then? She was nothing but hatred now. The businessmen who passed by her on the street, the empty-headed students, the happy couples, the miserable-looking old people. She hated everyone. But she hated them most of all. She hated the ones who abandoned her. She hated the ones who had done this to her. They hadn't abandoned her. This never would have happened. The hatred burned within her womb. Why womb? That's so random. No, she was the hatred. It's sort of a interesting line. The power she gained that day was all for this. Let me guess, she's an old... she's a person that was experimented on previously. Only the joy of revenge drove her forward. Forward and forward. And then, she didn't notice that the people who passed by her turned back in surprise. She didn't realize it herself. But the woman was laughing. She was laughing so hard that anyone could hear her. Like black smoke from a flame rising towards the sky. She raised her voice and laughed. How goes it? Michiru's awakening, not completely yet. What else? Seems to have finally remembered their existence, yes. What of the sin he committed? Not yet. Understood. It is almost the day of judgment. The sin he committed. If Amy ends up being that girl that they left, I don't know. He definitely doesn't seem to be... Oh, was he... He doesn't seem to have remembered anything. That's the thing. He's like learning stuff and recontextualizing stuff. But like a lot of the stuff that he's remembering, he's still remembered.
おい、あれじゃね？ほら、今流行ってる。
マジで？やばくね？てか、流行るっておかしくね？呪われるんしょ？マジやばくね？
ほれ、一枚持ってこうぜ。
やばいってそれ、マジやばいって。
あ、先輩、あれ例のやつじゃないですか？
例のって？
え？先輩知らないですか？歴史シール。
歴史シール？
いやいやいや、またまた嘘っしょ？知ってて言ってるんしょ？
いや、マジで知らないって。
マジっすか？今めっちゃ流行ってるっすよ。
流行ってんの？あんな気持ち悪いのが？
いや、流行ってるってのとは違うか。ほら、例の連続殺人事件、あれの現場にあったって話っすよ。
あのシールが？なんで？
なんでかは知らないっすけど、でもなんか意味あるんじゃないっすか？
歴史シールね。なんかそのまんますぎだろ。もっといいネーミングねえのかよ。
ほら、ここにもあるじゃん、歴史シール。
うわ、めっちゃ増えてんじゃん。てか、あんた何やってんの？
これちょっと可愛くない？ほら、カバンとかつけたら。
うっそ、 可愛いとこマジウケるんだけど、どんな趣味よ。
絶対これ流行るってマジで。ねえ、あんたもそう思うっしょ。
それ近づけんのやめて。見てるとなんか気持ち悪くなんだよね。ほら、気持ち悪いっつってんじゃん。
うっそ、可愛いって絶対。
あれ、それ何つけてるんですか？
あ、これほら、例の力士シール。おしゃれっしょ。
あ、いいですねそれ。
でしょでしょ。これ流行らそうよ。 T シャツとかにでっかくプリントとか可愛くない？
でも不謹慎とか言われそうじゃないですか？
ああ、不謹慎中とかうざいよねマジで。でも大丈夫じゃない？
なんかグッズとか作ります？
いいね。ソックスとかさ、可愛いかも。
ちょい考えますか。
Sumo sticker socks? What?
どうしたん？
なんか焦げ臭くね？
ああ、ここあったらしいぜ。
何が？
なんかほら、最近この辺で火つけて回ってるやついるらしいじゃん。連続放火？
ああ、なんか聞いたそれ。
それもほれ、あれのせいじゃねえの？呪いのシールとかって。
あれなんなのマジで。あれと一緒なんだろ、前のほら。
ニュージェネだろ。
そう、それニュージェネ。あれの真似なんだろ。渋谷マジやばいって。
このように今回の事件の日付は全てニュージェネレーションの狂気と呼ばれる6年前の事件と一致しております。
Does feel as though what they're getting at is the idea that what they're trying to do is not so much create psychics, but activate psychics at a very fundamental level to increase the amount a fully, let's say what the phrase they use, awakened psychic would be able to influence until maybe you cause a big earthquake or something like that, yeah? And maybe the point of the murders is actually specifically to draw attention towards them? It could be. I mean, so presumably whatever they're doing is, again, trying to recreate what they did in the past, yeah? But if it's a matter of great delusion result in other thing, then the elements of what that delusion could try to achieve could be vastly different if it's a matter of imagination, right?
そこにどのような関連があるのかが注目されているわけですが、これについてはいかがでしょう？
そうですね。関連があるのはほぼ間違いないでしょうね。ただ現時点で全ての事件が同一犯であると決めつけるのはまだ時期尚早ではないかと思います。
それはどうしてでしょう？
現場に残されていたという力士シールは渋谷の街中のどこにでもあるという話ですし、入手するのは比較的簡単なんですね。したがって何者かが同一犯の犯行とみなすために現場に残したという可能性も考えられます。
That's a fair argument. Definitely something that should be taken under consideration.
その場合はやはり捜査の混乱を狙ったということでしょうか？
そういうことになりますね。特に今のようなネット社会ではそうした情報は早く出回りますし、騒ぎに乗じた便乗殺人ということもないとは言い切れないでしょうね。
まだまだ謎の多い事件ですね。こちらの事件に関しては後ほど改めましてたっぷりと検証していきたいと思います。
Correlation is not causation. Sort of logic, basically.
さて、次のニュースはこちらも東京渋谷ですね。連続放火事件のニュースです。
I'm gonna guess that the arsonist is that girl. Their resistance 1? Interesting.
しかし信じられないな。 まさかAH 東京総合病院でそんなことが。
Are you not aware? Or are you just made aware after she went there knowing everything? Shinzo Takeshi frowned as he leaned back in the sofa inside the messy office. Frisia Corporation was located on the second floor of an old multi-purpose building in Sakuragaoka. Sakuragaoka? At this hour, the 20 or so desks in the room were mostly empty, but that didn't mean things weren't busy. So you're at the corporation rather than, like, the police station? Investigation companies like Frisia did a lot of work outside the office. It was precisely because they were busy that there was no one here. 3 people were having a serious discussion inside the empty offices.
まあ、新庄ちゃんが疑いたくなる気持ちはわかるけど。
In front of him was the CEO of Frisia, Momose Katsuko.
お前なんかに嘘をついて何の得がある？
Lapcoat Mio was sitting further away from him, not even bothering to conceal her displeasure. It was clear she had no intention of being friendly with him.
もちろん信じないと言っているわけじゃない。あの病院にいろいろ妙な噂があることだって知っている。それにこうして生きた証人もいることだし。
Shinzo looked at the other person on the sofa. It was a tiny little girl.
あの子が本当に施設で被害者たちの世話を？
ああ、そうだ。
Couldn't you just have a hospital or a raid of the hospital and what's going on down there and get all the proof you need?
今彼女から事情は聞けそうかな？
やってみてもいいが、失望するだけかもしれないぞ。
え？それがね。
私、帰ります。お願いします。私、帰ります。あそこに返してください。お願い。
ずっとこの調子。帰りたいの一点張り。何を聞いたってろくに話してくれやしない。
Hey, little girl, if you answer our questions, we'll let you go back. How about that? There's an approach.
百瀬さんが苦戦するのは珍しいな。
Shinjo stood up and dragged an office chair over to the sofa the girl was sitting on. He sat down as slowly as he could, as to not scare her, and looked at her at eye level.
山添由紀くん？
He tried to speak as softly as he could, but she still shivered at his voice.
怖がらなくていい。僕はおまわりさんだ。
おまわりさん。
そうだ。だから安心していい。
おまわりさんなら助けてください。
もちろんだと思う。だから教えてほしいんだ。君を真っ暗な地下室に閉じ込めたのは誰？
私、あの人にさらわれてきたんです。だから助けてください。元の場所へ返してください。
Yeah, even if he was gonna help you with the kidnapping, he wouldn't send you back there. Yamazoe Yugi looked at Lapia for just an instant, then looked back to Shinjo, begging.
これで私も立派な誘拐犯だな。逮捕してみるか？
You are actually a kidnapper. Like, legitimately, what you did was straight up illegal. The fact that you brought her to what is essentially police custody might not be such a bad move legally. I don't know what the legal ramifications of that are, but...
チャチャを入れないでくれ。なあ、ウキ君。何か勘違いしているようだけど、君は地下でひどいことをさせられてたんだ。だからこうして助け出されたんだよ。
ひどいことなんて何もありません。私はただ皆さんのお世話をしていただけです。それが私の仕事です。
She also wasn't locked there, given the fact that she literally herded people into it.
だから戻らないといけないんです。私がいないと皆さんが困ってしまいます。
That explained why even a veteran like Momose was having trouble. Shinjo looked at the two and shrugged.
参りましたね。
でしょ？
answer all of her questions, and we will 1. Do everything in our power to help the people down there, and 2. Help you help them. Come on, negotiate on her terms. Make her into an ally. I don't think it's a complicated proposition at the very least.
聞いた限りだと地下の環境はかなり劣悪ですよね。普通女の子がそんなところに帰りたいって思うもんですかね。
私ならごめんこむるわね。まあうちも仕事内容の劣悪さじゃ負けてないと思うけど。
Mimose juggle.
そいつの頭皮を見てみたが、ロボトミーや電気ショックの痕跡はない。ちゃんと脳の検査をしないと断定はできないが、多分長年の軟禁生活で自分の境遇に疑問を抱かなくなってしまったんだろ
う。虐待されてる子供と同じか。
But we've seen her out and about. Unless you're saying that she only was allowed out and about once she stopped questioning it, or something like that. But we've seen her actively choose to exit and leave and come back and etc. And even that, she got more people to bring down there. And it doesn't seem like it's what essentially was... Oh, okay, so we saw a set of monitors down there, right? And we're like, oh, they're monitoring a bunch of these two-sticker locations and whatnot. And they're trying to gather up people. So either they're trying to gather up people with the ability and bring them down there, but they seem to be using that not as a place for actual research at this point, right? So that would be the implication would be that you put up the Suma stickers again, either to just get people going in order to create a big open area of these psychics at a low level that you could spread the field of an effect on. Either that's the point, but that wouldn't explain the monitors, unless those monitors were set up from before. But no, the security cameras, those are connected to the big corporation, right? How much you want to bet? Now that I think about it, is the big corporation doing them when they're done with them, in a different location? The one that's doing the security cameras. Why they'd have them set up down there, I don't know. In that hospital, I don't know. They're doing their experiment somewhere else. They're using that as basically supply for the ones they're done with or whatever. And they're using her to shepherd them over and etc. Or other stuff like that.
どうしたもんかな。
Shinjo looked back at the girl. And you know what? They should know that she wasn't being forced in there, because haven't they been monitoring her? At least they made a comment before that really sounded like they were talking about her and the old lady she was with, right? The discussion about the artists and stuff like that. Shinjo looked back at the girl, who now seemed like as if she was about to cry, and started to scratch his head. As of now, the police had no reason to make a move on AH General Hospital. None of the evidence he'd gathered had been acquired by legal means. Yeah, I thought about that. He'd hoped that Yamazoe Yuki's testimony would allow her to function as a whistleblower, but that was looking unlikely.
あ、そうだ。ウキ君、この少年を知ってるね。
Shinzo took out a smartphone. It was one he borrowed from the younger officers. He picked out Miyashiro Taku's photos from the ones he'd taken of the people involved in the Hekio Academy photo shoot.
彼のスマートフォンを君は拾ったはずだ。彼が
その人なら何回か会いました。でも、そのスマートフォンって一体何ですか？
Fantastic. Meaning she's not the one to have the abilities to call over a canceled thing. It's someone else she must have handed it over to.
は？何？
その子ね、最近のものは何も知らないわよ。
Shinjo thought for a moment, then pointed to his own phone. Well, smartphones have been around since before the Shibuya Earthquake, technically, right?
これがスマホだ。これと似たようなものを彼が落として君が拾った。覚えてないかな？
Yuki stared at the phone in his hands and then nodded softly.
やっぱりそうか。で、それをどうした？
落ちていた場所にすぐに戻しました。
Holy shit, okay.
戻した？君が持って行ったんじゃなくて？
持ってなんていきません。 なんだかわからないものは怖いです。
でも宮代くんによればそのスマホから電話がかかってきたって言うんだ。君がやったんじゃないのか？
スマホというのはそうやって写真を見る機会じゃないんですか？電話もかけられるんですか？
Interesting. Interesting. It does feel like someone... I mean, obviously there's someone monitoring Taguru, yeah? Momose giggled a little. Shinjo glared at her and then turned the phone around, brought up a number from the address book. He tapped the number. Phone rang for a moment, then an extremely irritated voice answered.
Hi. もしもし、有村ですけど。
Yay.
ほら、こうやって電話ができるんだよ。な？
Right, okay. He's not even asking her for help. He's just calling her. Shinjo turned up the volume so that Yuki could hear it. Yuki didn't seem to care.
そうですか。もしもし、一体何なんです？用がないなら切りますよ。私これからランチなんで。
いや、用ならあるんだ。しかも大事な用が。悪いんだけど、ちょっと力をか。
お断りします。
即答はないだろ
う。ねえ、新庄さん。私ってあなたの恋人かなんかですか？何かっていうとすぐに電話してきて。いやらしい。
いやいや、待て。別にそういうつもりじゃ。
なら、ストーカーってことでいいですね。
よくない。困ってるんだ。助けてくれよ。
うわ、出た。女の敵の決まり文句。それでお小遣いをせびったり、お金のために変なバイトをさせたりするんですよね。最低のダメ人間。
Have you experienced this before?
真面目に聞いてくれよ。大切な話なんだ。頼む。
She finally managed to quiet her down and then told her about the situation. Okay. Since this is probably going to go into something a bit more detailed, I think that's probably it for an episode. So, I still don't know what I feel about the D-sword concept more specifically is the biggest thing. The Gigalomaniac sort of name is not nearly as blatant about the thing that sort of makes me off-put about it, but, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Though, and then the quantum physics element is... They're clearly just adding stuff on top of the basic level stuff, rather than something that naturally actually flows out of it from understanding. It's a weird situation where it's a pseudoscience, but it so heavily wants to be based on, like actual science to a level where it's like, okay, I sort of want to look that up to understand it. And once you start understanding it more or refreshing yourself on the stuff that you've learned about in the past, you start to think, wow, this what they're saying makes even less sense now. So it's an interesting fine line between trying to use more enhanced science to create your sort of pseudoscience element to it, where it's a little bit on the side of and a little bit on the side of, oh, interesting, that's a cool thing you got going there. But they're also not telling me the integral part, as in why does it affect reality, which is the only thing that really matters, honestly, for establishing a through line of logic. So okay, so I'm interested to see where this goes, but a lot of answers today, I suppose. So we'll see y'all next time. Drive safely, everyone.